Goodness comes and evil goes. Kimungo. Kimunga Ukombozi, Kimunga Ukombozi, Kimunga Ukombozi, divine liberty, divine liberation, divine freedom, and all that that will bring for African people wherever we happen to be on the face of this earth. Karibu, welcome. My name is Kwende, and today we're going to get into another important subject area, and that is celebrating your all year round efforts to know your own cultural observances. Now, cultural observances are naturally a part of African people's culture. That's the substance of life that helps to shape and move African people to achieve their maximum potential and their maximum capability as a whole. And there are certain times of year or seasons of the year where elements of that culture become highlighted, become the focal point, become celebrated, become magnified, in order for that continual energy, that continual thrust of cultivation to take place. And that's been with the African since time immemorial. That has been with the African soul from the earliest of times, and it has produced the grandest and most long-lived civilizations that the world has ever come to know. It's a grand gift for this special people by the ultimate divine, by the Creator Supreme. And culture is so important that it must be part of African life, not just a bolt-on, but at the core of African life, at the foundation, at the basis of African life. Of course, as we know, in recent times, there's been much by way of interruption and disruption in the African continuum by others that mean the African ill, who have sought to impose their own cultural seasons, their own cultural observances upon African souls for their own benefit, to serve their best interests. And if the interests of others relies upon the subjugation of African souls, then it means that engaging in times of the year that energize those same others, we do ourselves a great disservice. We serve others that do not have our best interests at heart, and indeed impose all kinds of ills upon us. It is therefore vitally important that African souls restore, reclaim, rejuvenate their own culture as part of their life, not just to know it, not just intellectual processing, but to actually live their own cultural experience, live their own way of life, and ascend accordingly. That's the way we lift ourselves to our maximum and pinnacle state, our optimal state of being. So knowing our own cultural observances is really living knowingness. It's not simply some detached, abstract, isolated, theoretical concept over there somewhere that's aside from us. Our culture is there to be a part of our lives. And we can actually celebrate our living knowingness of our own culture. Yes, we can, because we live it. And so the time we spend to cultivate ourselves, to groom ourselves, to nurture, to grow, to progress ourselves, is time that we can reap the rewards of, reap the harvest of, reap the yield of, and celebrate. And one of the special times in which we can celebrate that in is the wonderful celebration of Kwanzaa, which begins on the 26th of December and runs through until the 1st of January. 7 days to celebrate Kwanzaa. So one of the things that I've done in terms of celebrating or getting to know your own cultural observances and then celebrating that at a period such as Kwanzaa. Kwanzaa, of course, being a culmination of all year-round activity, allowing the African souls of the world to celebrate all that they've done throughout the annual cycle, season by season. So what I've done is to create an acronym of the Kwanzaa word itself. The word Kwanzaa, Kwanzaa, 7 letters. And each of those 7 letters has a word associated with it that carries meaning. I won't go through it all in great detail, but what I will do is share a summary of each of those particular words and their association. So the first letter is K, and the word that's associated with K is Kweza, which means to raise. Now, if we think about what it means to raise ourselves up out of the condition, then that sparks or can spark something in us to lift ourselves to our optimum functionality, our optimal expressions of life. Very, very important. The next letter is Wema, which is goodness. We must be about good faith, each African soul to the next, not to do the bidding of others that mean us ill and tear ourselves apart, rather pull ourselves together in wholeness, in oneness, and in oneness of mission. Wema, goodness, to do good, for the overall thrust of what it means to be a progressive and ascending African soul. The next letter is A, which is associated then, or the word associated with the letter A is Adimisa. Adimisa means honor. We must have honor and dignity for our own kind. This is vitally important. If we dishonor, disrespect, and disregard our true selves, then we do ourselves a grand disservice. And that goes against progressive elevation, which we so vitally need. The next letter is the letter N, and the word associated with N is Nga, Nga, which means shine, shining the light of brilliancy that African people have been so blessed with, have been so endowed with by the ultimate divine from the very beginning. And we must reclaim that brilliancy. We must illuminate the world with that brilliancy and shine the light of African spirit, shine the light of African substance, shine the light of African ascension. The next letter is the letter Z, and the word associated with Z is Zaoma, which means production. To produce things for ourselves that actually uplift and benefit ourselves, and not simply just to hemorrhage our efforts to produce things for others that mean us ill. That's very, very important. The next letter is the letter A, and the word associated with the letter A is Adili, which means rightness, and rightness of our duty to ourselves, rightness of what it means to be progressively working in the interests of African souls. Rightness in the sense of avoiding or purging ourselves of wrongdoings, certainly amongst each other, so that we can do right and build our own nation, do right and ascend in liberty and nationhood. The final letter is the letter A, and the word associated with A is azizi, excellence. We were birthed as an African people in excellence. We're the primary people of creation itself. We came forth from the most excellent, ultimate divine of the sacred universe. And so we inherit excellency. We inherit excellence from the ultimate source. And surely that must be reclaimed in our lives so that we can manifest that in our beingness, in our living, in our ascension, in our climb, in our rise, victoriously so. So that acronym of Kwanzaa, Kwanzaa, is just celebrating all year round effort in knowing what it is to have, to live, to ascend with our very own culture, our very own spiritual and cultural fabric. So with that, food for thought, and surely it is food for thought. Kimunga ukumbozi, Kimunga ukumbozi, Kimunga ukumbozi. Divine liberty, divine liberation, divine freedom, and all that that will bring for African people wherever we happen to be on the face of this earth.
Kwanzaa is for real. We've got to live our own greatness, reveal what we want. Kwanzaa value seal. We've got to be our own nation's yield what we